Hi, Bob. How you doing, Bob?
Not too bad yourself.
Pretty well, thanks.
I was gonna say I have a Cub Scout meeting going on with the little one, so I had to go get her up and running.
I saw a Cub Scout pop in there. I thought maybe we were having a flag ceremony.
No, I was gonna say we did that on this weekend. I was gonna say one of our friends always has a flag outside, and over time, they wear out, and so he gives them to me to retire. I figure I'm not gonna be able to retire many times soon, so.
Yeah. We have about 56 people registered, so
Wow.
I'm good. Yeah, I'll keep admitting them, but I figure we'll wait till about 5 after till we start.
Yeah. Well, might be Jim on.
Yeah, well, we need him too. Fortunately, he's at the end, so. Oh, there he is. He just popped into the waiting room. Hi, Jim. I feel like I should have some music playing or something to entertain people while we wait.
Yeah, I've never found it to go well. It's all backfeed usually.
Does that work? Oop.
I can honestly say I'm not familiar with all my bugle calls.
Well, there's some, there's some interesting ones on there. I would not have any clue what they were. Welcome, everyone. We're still waiting for the rest of the participants to join us. We're going to wait until about 5 after before we officially start.
This is just so blunt. Oh, it has me down as.
Well, now there's somebody I haven't seen in a long time. Hi, Jim.
Yeah, I just muted it and turned it down. Let me see.
We're getting there. We're about half of the registrants are here now. So we'll just give it another few minutes before we get started.
Hello?
Hello. We're just waiting for everyone to sign in. We're going to wait until about 5 after.
No problem. Just wanted to make sure I was on the right chat system.
All right, about one more minute and then we'll get going. All right, well, it is 5 after 7, so in deference to everybody that's here on time, I'm going to get started. First off, I would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I hope that you are all staying well and your family safe, and I hope that you haven't gone completely stir-crazy by this point. I think we're 6 weeks into this self-quarantine. So tonight, I want to cover a few housekeeping items as well. I have everybody muted. I'm going to ask everybody that if you have questions that come to you during the presentation, to just jot them down. We do have sections of the presentation where we stop to take questions on that section, and then we have allotted plenty of time at the end to take questions as well. So we will have lots of time to answer questions at the end of the presentation. I have everybody muted. If for some reason you do need to jump in and say anything, you can just, if you press and hold your space bar, that will temporarily unmute you, but that will allow you to hear the presenter. So, all right, let me introduce myself. I'm Joe Leese. I am the Senior District Executive for Continental District. I am also the Chartered Organization Rep for PAC 10 and Troop 16 in General Nash, and a committee member at Troop 14 in General Nash. Helping me tonight, I have Bob Valtos, who's the Chartered Org Rep and former Cub Master at PAC 76, or just former Cub Master at PAC 76 in Minquist District, and a man that needs no introduction, Jim McGaffin, who is pretty much everything in Minquist District, the former District Commissioner, Assistant Scoutmaster, and former Scoutmaster at Troop 72 in Minquist District. So we're going to get started. Let me pull up my presentation. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation tonight is to teach everyone a couple of things. Now, these aren't new or unique ideas. We want to teach everyone how to come up with a good plan for their unit for the year, an annual plan, one that engages the youth, keeps them interested, keeps them coming, and makes them want to bring their friends. And secondly, coming up with a budget that will support the plan that you have, because without a budget, your plan may not happen. And then finally, how to fundraise to support the budget, to keep this engaging plan that you have affordable for your families and your youth. And so the beginning section will be for doing a plan, and covering that will be Bob Valtos. Secondly will be the budget, and I will be taking care of that. And finally, Jim McGaffin will be covering the fundraising section. So, as I said, these are the things that we're covering, the 3 Ps, program, planning, and payment. I want to say that, again, separately, none of the things you're going to hear tonight are going to be exceptionally unique. But the way that you put these things together is. And what we teach you tonight, you can't just take one piece and use it. You have to take all of them and use them as a system in order for this to work. You can adapt how they work with your unit. Specifically, programming planning is going to be very different for troops than for PACs, and even between troops, there may be differences in what they specialize in. Equipment needs are going to be different from unit to unit and from troops to PACs. So those things you can settle for yourself. But the way this system works can be uniquely or can be universally applied to any unit. And I will also say a lot of what I reference on here is it references Cubs. And the reason for that is when I came up with this system, I was a Cub master. And I came up with it for my pack, and I have shared it with a number of packs. Troops have also utilized it, so don't be stuck on the Cub verbiage. So I'm going to bring you up to the program planning section, and for that, I am going to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Bob Valtos. Like Joe said, I was Cub Master for Pack 76 for many years. Now I'm the core for Pack 76. And also, I took over the district commissioner position from Jim McGaffin. I've been in Scouts for approximately 9 years now. So most of those years have been in the Cub Scout pack. My oldest started in first grade. He's now in ninth grade. And my youngest is now moving through and he's in second grade. So I still haven't left Cub Scouts. I'm going to talk to you about the first P, program planning. So why is program planning important? Really it boils down to your Scouts will have more fun and they'll get more out of the program. And if your Scouts have more fun and their friends see that, then you're going to also get more Scouts. So all these things go into, what makes your program successful. But at the end of the day, it's keeping this, the families and the Scouts in your unit and making sure they get the most out of the program that you're planning. Without planning it, you don't have a good program and the Scouts won't stay. So the next bullet, or the next point, yeah. Flip the slides there. There we go. Oh. All right, step one, collecting key information. So the first thing before you start planning your program, a lot of it is finding dates that work for everyone. So you want to collect key days, school dates, community events, chartered organizational dates. Make sure you collect those family talent surveys, know what parents are good in and what they do for a living. They can help out. You go find the accountant who takes care of your books for your trooper pack. The one thing I do want to kind of bring out here is what are the priorities of your unit? So this doesn't necessarily go towards troops, but troops will probably focus their priorities a little bit more than packs. But what are your unit priorities? What do you want to focus on? Is your troop going to participate in high adventures? So maybe you want to focus your program around training for that high adventure this year. Or if they go every year, the next year, whatever training they need. So if they're going to sea base, maybe you plan a lot of activities where they get an opportunity to canoe or kayak. Maybe your unit is focused on getting your Scouts advanced toward Eagle. So a lot of your pack activities or your unit activities will be focused on advancing your kids and giving them those opportunities to advance. Maybe you're rebuilding a troop or a pack. And so you're not going to focus so much maybe on advancing them, but you're going to focus on keeping them involved and getting more Scouts involved. So maybe you have a lot of planned activities that will lead themselves to having them invite their friends to these activities so that they can see what scouting is all about and have a good time, enjoy it, and then maybe they join as well. Maybe if your pack is centered around family activities, then you focus around those types of family activities and make sure you have something going on each month or every other week for the family to get the family involved, especially now with family scouting. We're not just recruiting boys anymore. We are recruiting young ladies as well. So get the families involved and maybe you focus your pack priorities on getting those families involved. And then maybe you have a pack that's running really well and you have a troop that's running really well. So maybe you're going to focus on advancing your Scouts into Boy Scouts or Scouts BSA. So as doing that, you want to make sure they advanced and they get all those opportunities to advance. The second step for program planning.
Sorry, there seems to be a delay when I try to
There we go. So the second step is draft your initial program plan. So this is where it's time to break out the calendar and drop in key dates and things of that nature. Now you're going to drop in what I call the low-hanging fruit. Your unit is probably going to have a chartered organization that provides a place for them to meet. So you have meetings on whatever night. So let's say Wednesday night at a certain time. You're going to drop all those dates in. Go through the school calendar. The school's not in this week because of spring break, Christmas break, whatever. You'll take those dates out. And then, if there's district or council activities that, are planned well in advance, you drop those on your calendar. But don't forget to, include your activities for fundraising. So when we get to the part later on, Mr. McGaffin will talk about fundraising, and you want to limit that fundraising time. You don't want your unit to be spending, the entire year fundraising, and that's their sole focus. You want to make sure that you are, developing this program plan and that you can, achieve your program that you want. So you need to make sure that you plan for it, but that it doesn't consume your plan. And then the next step is who should be at your planning meeting. So this is where you want to get everyone involved. Your committee members, all your unit leaders, charter organizational rep, youth leaders, so your senior patrol leaders and your patrol leaders, den chiefs for your packs, unit commissioners. Now, unit commissioners are usually people who have held positions in scouting for multiple years, and they are a great resource. A lot of times they've run units somewhere along the line. A lot of times they've, as a unit commissioner, they have multiple units that they're responsible for. So they see how other units do this. So, you have a lot of good ideas, but you know what? The unit down the street also has a good idea. There's no reason you can't borrow that good idea. Now, the other thing is you have all these people in a room. How do you keep it from turning into complete and utter chaos? So what you need to do is start with your calendar that's pre-filled out, and then you decide or bring someone in who may not be, the Cub Master or Scout Master or the committee chair, but someone who is very good at running a meeting and making sure everyone is heard. I have a philosophy: people are more willing to go along with the plan as long as they feel they've been heard. If they feel that no one's heard their input, then they're going to shut down and they're not going to support the plan. So you need to make sure that all these people do, get involved, that they do feel like they've been heard, and that you give them the due diligence of listening to them. So the next thing, you use your calendar tool. So now I call it a tool because at the end of the day, all it is a bunch of dates. But what goes into the tool is the amount of effort that you do in planning to make sure that your scouting year fulfills the objective that you started with at the beginning of the year. That you're advancing the kids, that you're bringing more kids in by having those activities, whatever your plan is, that you're fulfilling that plan. So the calendar is just a tool to get you to the end goal, which is, completing your plan of, whatever that is. So how do you develop your calendar? Hard copies and digital copies. So a hard copy, is what I'm more familiar with. Write down the dates, you put it all in there. But now a lot of people use Google Calendars, so you may want to include it as a digital calendar, and that way you can share the calendar. So when it goes out, now, mom and dad have, their calendar on their phone. They just download, the troop or pack calendar, and next thing you know, it auto-populates. So then they have all the dates in their calendar, and they can't say, oh, well, I forgot about something, I didn't know about something. It's already in their calendar. They can plan around it as well. And, my scout wants to especially do this event. I'm going to make sure I don't plan any family activities around that event, that we can go do that event together. Like I said, using a hard copy, here's a sample calendar for our pack. We start in September, finish up April, May timeframe. You'll see we have our committee meetings in there, our den meetings, and we focus on having a family activity at least once a month for all the families to join. We do sleepover at the beginning of the year in the fall when the weather's still nice. We do sleepover at the fire hall. We're fortunate with the fire hall is big enough to be able to hold all our Scout pack, Cub Scout pack. And then in the spring, we do a sleepover usually at one of the aquarium, the battleship, something of that nature. So it's a big sleepover, and it's costly. So the next part that Joe will go into in planning, using your program plan, how do you fund that so that everyone can participate? Now over the summer, the June, July, August, they have summertime activity awards, and there's a lot of great resources out there for what to do. The focus over the summer shouldn't be necessarily advancement of the Scout. It should be focused on growing the Scout. So maybe you do STEM activities over the summer, and everyone's not going to be able to participate. So maybe over the summer you do 2 weekends a month and some type of small activity. A lot of Scout troops will continue through the summer, and the big thing over the summer is summer camp. So then after you've completed your calendar and you've done everything, now in step 3, you review your program plan. So does it include all those key dates and events? Does it accomplish what you want? So will the Scouts have an opportunity to advance? Will they be able to complete the training that's necessary for maybe that high adventure camp that they're doing? Will they be able to do NYLT or any of the other trainings offered? Does it include activities for service and opportunities for recognition? A great way to make sure your plan is covering everything it needs to is use the JTE scorecard, and that will hit all the high points of, okay, our troop is doing this, and this. And yep, I think we have everything. So, after we're done, with the year, when we reevaluate ourselves, we should be able to achieve, silver, gold level with the JTE. In step 4, this is a great opportunity to develop people and Scouts, develop adults and Scouts. So take every event that you have and make a person responsible for it, assign it to someone. So this is a great opportunity to get more adults involved. This is also a great opportunity for assigning unit meetings to younger Scouts. They have to develop that plan, come up with it, learn whatever they're going to teach, and then teach it. And it's a great opportunity for an older Scout to help mentor that kid. I know personally from work, mentoring is always overlooked, or a lot of times overlooked. And so this is a great opportunity to teach our youth how to mentor properly, do the EDGE method, educate, demonstrate, guide, and then evaluate. So give them that opportunity to, for that junior Scout to teach and just help them along. They gain that confidence, they learn that leadership capability, and then when they become the senior Scouts, they can turn around and do that for the younger Scouts. This is a great opportunity for Den Chiefs as well to do some program planning or to plan those meetings. They get that opportunity at the pack level, and then they take it with them at the troop level. And then step 5 is make sure you publish the program plan and that everyone has it. Everyone's different and everyone's going to be respond different. So make sure you get it out in any way, shape, and form you can, via email, hard copy, calendar invite, website, everything and anything to make sure everyone has it. What works for one person isn't going to work for the next person. I like the digital calendar. It works well for me. I can go check and see where it is. My wife likes the hard calendar that's up on the refrigerator. So every method that you can use, make sure it gets out there to everyone. And then in step 6, review your program plan periodically. So how often do you review it? This really is dependent on what's going on in your unit, how often you need to do that. Sometimes you'll have some issue that comes up, maybe date changes, loss of a venue that you were planning on, whether it's where you're going to have a blue and gold, or a crossover ceremony, or whether you're going to have camping in a certain location that is no longer available. Maybe there's some budget issues. Your fundraiser didn't raise as much as you'd hoped or planned, Maybe there's leadership changes. Someone got a new job and all of a sudden left. So you have a void now because of a strong leader maybe moving on. So maybe that's a great time to grab the program plan, break it out and say, okay, let's reevaluate it and see, are we still accomplishing what we want to accomplish? Are we still going to be able to accomplish it? And maybe we change our plan a little bit to, rearrange and do what we need to still provide the great scouting program that we want to provide for our scouts. And with that, thank you for your time. I will turn it over to Mr. Joe Leese, and he'll talk to you about planning your budget.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so let's talk about budgeting. So what's the purpose of having a formal budget for your unit? Well, once you have all these great activities planned, as Bob just explained, if you don't have a way to pay for them, or your families can't afford them, it's never going to come to fruition. They just simply won't participate. So just as having a goal without a plan is just a wish, well, having a plan without accessible funding, it won't produce any kind of tangible results with your scouts or with your families. And another thing is, I hear this, I see this in units occasionally. One thing you don't ever want to do is just put a blanket offer out to the families in your unit that you'll provide financial assistance to anybody anybody in need. So, hey, if you don't think you can afford this for your child, and you want to go on this trip or whatever, just come talk to us and we'll find a way. It's well intentioned, but what it does not do is allow that person and that family to preserve their dignity, frankly. You want to give them the opportunity to be able to do it for themselves. So you want to have fundraising opportunities accessible and available to them so that that scout can provide that opportunity for himself or herself. So I hope everybody has seen and heard this before. Scout is thrifty, directly from the Scout law. A scout works to pay their own way. And that's the bottom line here. More and more, honestly, we're becoming a culture of entitlement. People believe that they deserve something that they, just because everybody else has it, and they don't have to earn it or deliver any value to receive it. And that's just not what we stand for. As a matter of fact, from its inception, scouting has taught that that's not the path to success. And honestly, we're one of the only, if not the only, youth development organization that still teaches this. That you have to provide for yourself. You have to earn your own way. I want to show you an example of a PAC budget. Now, I apologize. I realize this is difficult to read. There's a lot packed onto that screen. I wanted to be able to send everybody out hard copies of this or make them available for download, but given the limitations of Zoom, I wasn't able to do that. I will put them up on the website later for people to go back and download if they want to go through this again and see them. But I put this up there. I'll give you a minute to take a look at it. And I just want to say that's not a fairy tale budget. That is my PAC budget from PAC 10 back in 2012. If you take a look at that bottom line, I have it highlighted for you. My budget that year was over $24,000. And I know there's a lot of people that would choke at the notion of a $24,000 budget for their PAC for the year. But we didn't plan from the perspective of, hey, how much fun can we have for $5,000? We said, what's going to make an engaging program? Just the way Bob explained. We put those activities and ideas into our plan, and then we put numbers to it. How much is each one of these things going to cost, and how much money are we going to need in order to make this happen? And we needed that so that we could set fundraising goals. So we knew how much we needed to make in order to make this plan happen, and how much each scout needed to make in order to make this happen. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, understanding that that PAC 10 was pretty big. We had, at that time, we were 85 plus scouts. So we had a big budget, and most PACs can't really relate to that. So I went through and reran this with a PAC of 25, which is about an average size PAC. so that you can see some more relatable numbers here. But even in this case, if you really put in, and I made this plan a little less elaborate than what I did, but still a very full calendar and a very good and engaging program. Yeah, even with less stuff, we're still looking at a bottom line here of almost $9,400. Again, I know a lot of leaders that would take a look at that and say, no way, we can't do that. What do we have to cut out so that we can afford this? And that should never be the perspective that you take. You should always try to look at this from the viewpoint of your youth. Better yet, get your youth involved if possible. Definitely at the troop level, that's a must. But even at the pack level, if you can get some older scouts that have been doing these activities for a couple of years to throw out some ideas of things they'd like to do or see. There should be no bad ideas. Throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. If you can afford it and you can find a way to fundraise for it, put it in there. So what are some of the things that we have to cover in our budget? Well, let's start with basic expenses. So you start with the registration fee, and I'm going to pause on that because I hope everybody knows that the registration fee is now $60, that it went from $33 to $60 last year. Some of you might not know that because last year it was announced at a very untimely time after we'd already started our program year, and our council decided that that was too burdensome to pass on to our families and our units at that time. So they stepped up and covered that difference to the tune of over $250,000. That is something that they cannot do again, especially given the current circumstances that they will not be able to do. And it's money that they only had because they have been good stewards of your money and your donations for many years. They need to rebuild that, and quite frankly, we're going to need to replenish our operating fund after this whole coronavirus thing is over. But you need to start planning now because this is how much the registration is going to be for your families when you re-register at the end of this year. So they need to have the opportunity, if this is a big number, to be able to fundraise to have that money available. There's the additional $2 that goes for liability insurance to protect you and your scouts from anything that happens. All right, that shouldn't say children's life. I meant to fix that. It's still boys' life. It's going to be scouts' life. But the magazine subscription, I include that for 100% of my scouts. I recommend that to everybody. And the reason for that is it has been proven that that 100% boys' life units have higher retention and their scouts go further. It's just a simple fact that if that magazine's in the house, it's not just the scout that's looking at it. The siblings are picking it up and reading it. The parents are picking it up and they're reading it. And it keeps scouting on the family's minds the whole month long. And program materials, the things in a pack, let's say the materials you need to do your craft activities or your books and supplies for troops, camping equipment and tents and mess kits and all that stuff. And advancement, that can get rather costly. I was very shocked when I actually figured out how much I was paying for advancement for Cub Scouts. I averaged over $50 per youth just on belt loops and Weeblos pins and all those other things. It got quite expensive. Don't forget to, as Bob said, put in a lot of activities. So there are some no-brainers like your Pinewood Derbies, your Klondike Derbies, but also throw in things like the family activities Bob talked about. Are there sports events, ball games? Make sure that you have camping, keeping the outing and scouting. Remember, we're a conservation-oriented organization, and you don't teach kids to want to preserve the outdoors if you don't first teach them to love it. I also, in my budget, included summer camp, and that was resident summer camp. But don't forget to put lots of camping opportunities in there for your unit. For the troops, they should be doing at least 9 a year, preferably one every month, but at least 9 a year, according to the JTE. For packs, you don't want to just do one camping trip a year and then, say, hey, we got it covered. The number one reason cited by kids for joining Scouts is to go camping. So you want to have multiple opportunities. Even if it's not hardcore outdoor camping, you want to have opportunities for them. It could be an overnighter in your chartered organization, and that's fine. It's different. It's fun. It's out of the house. As I said, equipment, so uniforms, sleeping bags, tents, trailers, all those things. Pinewood Derby tracks. And then the unit expenses, so how much is each Scout's fair share of, with your charter fees, adult training fees, the equipment that's expendable during the year, all that. So here's a look at the budget that I had referenced earlier. So here are our registration fees that I talked about. In the advancement, so this one, I was a little more conservative. I said 30 per youth for the 25. It's $750 for the year. If you don't budget that, you're gonna, you don't want to be asking families, hey, can I have $5 so that little Johnny or Susie can get their pin or their belt loop? And then the special events. And again, you really want to have a full calendar full of activities. So, have your Pinewood Derby, have your Blue and Gold, have your Courts of Honor in there, have summer camp in there. I would encourage, for the packs, definitely make sure you have summer camp in there as well. It's kind of a given for the troops. And any other activities that you think would be engaging to youth, even if they're not necessarily Scout oriented. I do want to point out, I have things like leader recognition. I don't allocate a ton of money to that. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but you have a lot of adults that give a lot of their time and talent, and some of their treasure even, to make your program exceptional. And you want to make sure that you at least recognize them for their efforts, to encourage them to continue what they're doing and to hopefully come back and do it again next year. And at the end, and I will make the spreadsheet available online for everybody, the blank spreadsheet for doing a budget, but you can put in some variables. Do the adults pay their own dues, or does the unit pay the dues for them, etc.? And that will bring you down to a bottom line of how much money you actually need. Now, in this case, for this pack of 25, well, we need to raise, and there are other income sources besides just your fundraising. So I recommend that all units carry a surplus from year to year and have that in their budget. If for no other reason, then no matter what fundraising you do, you're probably not going to have that money at the start of the program year. You're going to have to do the fundraising and then wait until you get the money. So even with something like popcorn, you may not have that money until October, November. So you want to have money to carry you through until that point. And if you get any donations, now we're not allowed to solicit donations, but people do give us donations freely. So if you've got donations, money or other things, or maybe your chartered organization helps support you financially, put that in your budget as well. So in this case, I need to raise $5,700. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because later Jim will talk about more specifics on fundraising. We're just going to assume you went out and did your fundraising, because what I'm going to talk about here is not specific to any one fundraising program. I reference popcorn and adventure cards, frankly, because I used popcorn and adventure cards. I almost entirely relied on popcorn because it was the beginning of the year and it was risk-free. And I won't say that it was easy, but it was organized and it was easy for us to do. So once you've raised the money from whatever fundraiser that you do, what do you do with that money? Well, first you have to figure out what your fixed costs were, those registration fees, the equipment, all that other stuff, and you need to cover that. Then you need to allocate the rest of the money to the scouts for their activities. And the most common way of doing that is using scout accounts. And that's where a scout can accumulate funds that they can utilize for purchasing things or to put towards activities or, et cetera, camping trips, whatever. The one thing I want to caution everybody about is what you cannot do is you cannot have fundraisers where you simply say, okay, this scout raised $200, so I'm going to put all $200 into their scout account. And this scout raised $150, so I'm going to put $150 into their scout account. You cannot pass 100% of the funds earned on to those scouts and not have some way of having the fundraiser benefit every scout, whether they participated in it or not. Otherwise, you are violating the IRS regulations and you are jeopardizing the tax-exempt status of your chartered organization. So some of the benefits of having scout accounts, remembering the scout is thrifty and he earns his own way. Scout accounts, they can teach kids life lessons such as goal setting, financial planning, and self-reliance. They learn that they have to earn things from their own hard work. They just don't get it for free. The scouts that do fundraising, they participate in more activities because they know, hey, I earned this, so I'm going to participate in it. And the more they participate, the longer they stay in scouting and the farther they advance. So I'm going to ask a question. I don't want any answers, but do you think it's fair that everyone benefits equally from fundraising, even if they didn't participate equally? And think about, what do your youth think about that? Do they think that that would be, so we have a fundraiser, we earn so much money, and we just put that into the unit coffers, and we'll spread that out when we have activities, and we'll use that to buy equipment, and we'll use that to defer costs for people. But we don't really spell out how we've done that. We just kind of applying that across the board. I don't think that sends a very good message to your families or to your youth. Especially the ones that have worked extra hard to do more in the fundraising. Forgive me, I have to admit somebody here. Okay. And also, I want to ask you, do your parents like to shell out money every month for your activities and for advancement and for other things? I think I know the answer to that. So we have an alternative here. It's buy Scout Reimbursement. It's something that I nicknamed Cubsidy because it was at a Cub Pack. And if you take a Cub Scout and you add a subsidy, well, you get a Cubsidy. So what this is you've done your budget. So you have a fully inclusive budget of all of the things that go into an engaging program year, and you know what your bottom line cost is going to be. So now I know how many scouts, or at least I should know how many scouts I'm going to have next year. I should be able to ballpark that pretty closely. I take that bottom line amount, figure out how much fundraising I have to do based on whatever the return is on the fundraiser I'm doing, and I set a goal for my scouts. If you were to wind backwards and look at my budget came to, it was $534.73 per scout. Is what they had to sell in popcorn in order for the troop to, or the pack to meet its goals. So we set a tiered system in place. If you hit 100% of your sales goal, the pack is going to pay 100% of your program fees. We're going to pay for everything that you want to participate in fully. If you don't hit that 100% of your goal, okay, let's say you hit 75. Well, the pack will pay 75% of everything you want to participate in, and you're going to pay 25% of everything you want to participate in. And I mean everything. I'm not talking about advancement necessarily, but things like Blue and Golds, they have a cost. Pinewood Derby, that has a cost. You want to participate in those and you're not at 100%, well, you're going to have to kick in your portion in order to participate in those. And on down, 50%, 25%, on down to nothing. If you don't want to participate in our fundraiser, fine, but you're going to pay 100% for everything that you do this year. So, and you know, what you find is the ones that have to pay for everything don't participate. And when I say everything that we do, I'm talking everything, including summer camp. We paid for summer camp if you hit your 100% goal, or or whatever it was. We paid for that portion of it. So we paid for everything. Now that 534 is an ugly number, so I just rounded it up to 540. Make it nice. So this is what I'd give to people for their targets. This is what you have to sell. And I would also, while I'm presenting this, I've already showed everybody these are the activities that we have planned for the year. So that when Bob was saying you publish your calendar and publish your plan, publish this to them. This is all the stuff we're going to do. This is all the great stuff. This is how much it's going to cost. This is why you need to go out and sell this much. And if you don't want to, that's fine. But you're going to pay for whatever you want to participate in. And often what I would find was, okay, you either have to sell $540 worth of popcorn to get 100%, or if you participated in 100%, you're probably paying something like $700 out of pocket. And which one costs you more? How much does it cost to sell $540 worth of popcorn? Nothing. It costs time and it costs effort, but it doesn't cost any money. But I can tell you how much it's going to cost you if you don't sell $540 worth of popcorn. So that's the motivator. That's actually what gets the families to be motivated to participate in whatever your fundraiser is wait a minute, this directly benefits my Scout and our family because I don't have to be writing a check every time we do this stuff. And in my experience, what I've seen in my pack and in other units that have adopted this program, that the first year you get maybe 25% of the Scouts that hit that 100% goal. But what happens is they don't have to pay for anything, so they do everything. And the other Scouts and families start to notice, wait a minute, wow, I see all these guys doing all this stuff. How are you affording that? Oh, what do you mean how am I affording it? It's free. And that starts to spread. And it got to the point where my pack, and I found this to be pretty repeatable, between 40 and 50% of the unit will hit that 100% goal because they're motivated to not have to pay anything out of their pocket. And again, if you really have somebody that doesn't want to participate, really doesn't believe in this, fine, don't participate. You're just going to have to pay. So, why go to all that trouble to put that together, to put all the work into doing a good plan and to coming up with a formal, accurate budget and having a sales goal and viable fundraisers to support that? Well, I can tell you for my pack, and again, this is pretty repeatable in the units that have utilized this process. We had an 87% retention rate. We kept almost 9 out of every 10 Scouts that joined, and that was a solid 20% higher than the district average at the time. Kids, not only did they stay once they joined, but they invited their friends. I hope they're not on this call, but I nearly closed down 2 of the neighboring packs when I was in business down there because we were very active. We had great activities. And we were extremely affordable. You could literally go through our program for free if you wanted to every year. And families like that. I don't encourage families to shop among units based on price, but that's going to factor into their decision of which one they join. So if you can find a way, and this is a way, to make things affordable for everybody, you're probably going to be at the top of their list. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions. And at this point, let's stick specifically to this subsidy model and see if you have questions specific to that. We'll get to, we can open it up to general questions a little later on.
So you have 2 questions in the chat room that are specific to you. There are 2 questions.
Okay. Sorry, between doing the presentation and admitting people, I'm having a hard time keeping up.
Yep, that's okay.
But, let me go to my chat.
So I can read the questions for you.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, here we go. Okay.
What do you do if you have more than 1 sibling in the same unit? How do you buy subsidies in your past?
The subsidy is individual to each Scout. What I found is families that have multiple kids, let's just say they have two, instead of shooting for 100% for each one, now, some of them have done that. I've seen that, but they'll shoot for 50% for each. So, hey, I only have to pay half for each kid. And normally what they'll do is they'll just lump the sales from both kids together and say, okay, I won't just split it evenly between them and put them at the same tier. Yeah, most of the time that's what they want. But yeah, each scout has to qualify separately. And what's the second question?
The first question was based on siblings, both of them. And the third question is, will we have our templates available for people after the presentation's over?
Absolutely. I can't promise you it'll be on there tonight, but between tonight and next Wednesday when the next session is, they will be available on our website. And something I may have glossed over, and I do want to point out about the Cubsidy program that differs greatly from Scout accounts, is the money that you raise is not beholden to any Scout whatsoever. They have to requalify every year to hit whatever tier they're going to hit. And that money belongs to the unit only and to the chartered organization, and it gets used for the universal benefit of the unit. It doesn't necessarily get applied evenly. So Scouts at higher tiers, it gets applied more to them. But every Scout benefits, even the Scouts that didn't participate, are going to benefit from the program materials that are provided and from the advancement and recognition items and all that. But again, it's not like if this Scout leaves, then he's going to say, "Oh, I want to transfer this money to," which you can't do anyway. But it's not beholden to that Scout, so it's much easier to deal with than Scout accounts. All right, so if I'm going to move on a little bit here, a few more, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jim. So when we look back at the mock budget that I had put up there, the total expenses for the year were $9,300. So where does that money come from? You know, how do I come up with $9,300? Well, to answer that question, I am going to turn it over to Jim McGaffin, and he's going to cover the fundraising portion for you.
We'll fly through a couple of slides. So good evening, everyone. My name is Jim McGaffin. Before I started working at the district level inside MINC, I was a Scoutmaster at Troop 272 in Rose Valley. We were a unit of 72 families, and we ran somewhere between the low 70s to the mid 70s of boys every year for 4 years. The most unique part of that is that my son chose this unit not knowing that they had a well-established fundraiser. They fundraised their full value of their year every year in the month of December selling Christmas trees. And they did it in 14 days, currently this year, 14 days of hard work on that lot and 2 months of hard planning. Now, I would also tell you that the success of fundraising when you first start is unlikely to find your first shot at fundraising to be able to fundraise your whole year right off the bat, you know, raise $27,000 or $30,000 up front right off the bat and have that year in surplus is very unlikely. But we have a lot of other success stories inside the Minquist district. In the last year or so, we have had 2 Cub packs that have raised through popcorns and adventure card enough money to fund 80% of the year. And one unit as a whole grew so large inside the program that they were offering that they needed more space. We're starting to rent public space from the library and from a ballet theater across the way from the fire hall, which they met, but could afford it through their fundraising efforts. So tonight, as I speak about fundraising, I'm going to speak about 3 major goals to kind of remember. And so I can touch a little bit of everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit for those units that are not fundraising now and would like to start to fundraise. And I would talk about the pre-packaged council-sponsored fundraisers of popcorn and adventure cards, and I'll spend some time on that. I will talk about no-risk fundraisers that your unit can do that are non-council sponsored. And then I will speak a little bit about best practices of successful fundraising units. All right. So as we kind of go through it this evening, I'm going to start with popcorn. popcorn has changed radically in the last 2 years. It is no longer just the show and sell or the traditional take orders. So we'll start to move through the opportunities that we would have with popcorn sales for the fall of 2020. So we have this ways to sell. And one of the new things is Trails End has created an electronic app, which is very digital, not only for families today that you're selling to, but those that are doing the selling. It turns out one of the unique things that we found out, and I'm always that student of scouting that people talk about, like what are the trends, where are we going? And we have to know the trends of everyone in the world, not just those in scouts. But it turns out that most people carry no cash, or if they carry any cash at all, it's less than $20 on them at any one time. So we have to be able to take sales through credit cards, right, in some manner. And Trails End has created this app, and the council's been providing these squares to help us increase those sales for our growth by using more electronic platform. So our next slide. So this is the format of what the Trail End app looks like. It's very exciting. It sets up for each individual scout. It shows their goal. If your unit sets a goal per individual or a unit goal as a whole, it shows you as you're working through it and where the sales come from. Our next slide, please. This is our traditional show and sell. We're really familiar with that. That's the way scouting's been selling in this last 2 decades, where you're setting up in front of a storefront. You bring so much of your product per show and sell component, and you try and sell what you have in place. And hopefully you're prepared enough to either take the electronic Trails End app to supplement that, or the traditional form to supplement that, which we'll talk about is one of the other ways to sell popcorn. We have the wagon sell, where you have a limited amount of product that you are taking from door to door, and you're showing the product as you're going from door to door. The next component, I think, is the take order sell, which is the pre-order. In my mind, I call it pre-order because this is the legwork before you even get popcorn. These should be the ones that are no risk for you. You haven't had to take an order. If you got this form out ahead of time, even if it's a week before you have to place your popcorn orders, you can get a really high potential for success. You can go out there and do your door to door and then worry about the delivery date at a later date. So we have Trails End Online. This may work a lot better for older scouts, scouts inside troops. That's the ability to actually provide electronic marketing, refer someone, your grandparents, your uncle, your aunt, your cousin, to your Trails End Online account, and they will allow them to be able to ship even outside our regional area to somewhere else in the country to help fund your program. It also has a higher return on the purchases being made on this way. Military orders. We have a lot of customers who may not want to take popcorn. I know in my house, we limit it to 1 popcorn per child, which they get in the fall. And the same thing for Girl Scout cookies, or because we try and, as you can see, I'm certainly not whining for any food inside my physical shape. But I certainly do. I see a lot of cup packs. And one of the things I did as a district was, if I wasn't doing a military order for them, if I ran into them out there and asking where they were from, I would do a cash donation to that unit. So for military orders, we move on to the script. And we'll talk about the script when we talk about best practices. But a script for any type of fundraising, to make a consistent brand and effort as we fundraise, we want to make sure there's a published Scout script for your unit. And some of the basic things should be just as I am tonight. Maintain eye contact, speak clearly, be enthusiastic. Below my name is, I'm with what pack in what town. We are selling popcorn for a reason, to help defer my costs at day camp, to help defer my costs for the program, to help us with our Pinewood Derby. Our popcorn is delicious. Would you like to try some? Would you please place an order? But a script helps a scout practice. It helps to get the message succinct. First impressions, they say, is everything. And we'll talk about that here in a moment too. I don't believe in good scout, bad scout, but I'll talk about first impressions. When we fundraise, people expect to see us look like Norman Rockwell pictures of that traditional scout. That scout on the left, who has no additional components other than his uniform, is neat, he's tidy, has a smile on his face, and is cheerful. He represents the scout law and oath, physically and in his appearance. So that was very quickly through the popcorn component. That's one of the 2 pre-packaged. And when I say that pre-packaged, that means you don't have to do any Advertisement, people are familiar with the program of fundraising within scouting for popcorn. They're familiar in, say, the Cradle of Liberty for adventure cards, and they recognize both products. So you have very little advertisement. You have no component in the way of tracking or order forms or anything to create. That's been done for you already. So the second pre-packaged program sponsored by Council is adventure cards. And adventure cards this year, the two anchor stores for groceries is $5 off a $50 order at ShopRite or at Landis. You can see the other items on the card this year, which is Franklin Institute and Philly Pretzel Factory and Legoland. It has well over $125 worth of value. The adventure card program this year is a little different than in the past. We will not be, and we'll look down through them as we go through, we will not be out on the street selling them because of COVID-19. So we've changed the format of the sale this year to be an online sale. Eunice signs up with Council, gets a unique unit number from the ones they've signed up as the adult. And they also get, with that component, some pre-packaged marketing for electronic marketing. And each unit earns 60% of the commission. So at every $5 sale, the unit as a whole will get a $3 back. On the order form, when they go onto the web portal created at Council on Double Knot, so we know who ordered what. I think that's the next one down. We'll talk about the adventure. We're going to skip right over that. We'll get to that point. One more. New digital platform. That's where I want to be. Signs up to participate. The unit coordinator got a unique code. You share the code with all the members that are interested inside your unit to participate. So supporters will then log into the web portal, which is on Double Knot. They will enter that unique code and the first name and last initial of the scout that had reached out to them. The cards will be handled by Council and mailed to the purchaser, and then the unit will receive the commission. And there will be a database kept keeping track of the scout's name and a unit number, unique unit number of the sale, and be updated. It still will have the strive for 25s for important dates. It still will go to July 15th, and the sale has already started. But if you're interested in the sale this year, you can join at any time. You just need to find an adult coordinator for your unit, someone who will publicize to all of the families within that unit your unique number and the program's pre-packaged internet advertisement, the email and social media templates. Again, it's very important to have a script, right? So before you cold call or cold email your aunt, your uncle, your grandmother, it's important to have that script to know that they know that the email they receive is not spam. Again, the script should be consistent. Hi, Grandma, or hi, Grandpa, my name, hey, it's Joey. I'm in Troop 272, and we're hoping to go to summer camp this year at Russica Falls. And I'm hoping to do the rifle merit badge this year, and it has an additional fee of $10. Can you help me this year getting my summer camp deferred as well as my merit badge by supporting a $5 card? A prepared script. Talked about key dates. Program already started. So the first strive for 25 is April 30th. As if you sell 25 cards, your name goes into a lottery and you'll be receiving gift cards in that component. All right. Wednesday, July 15th, it comes to a close. You can sell adventure cards for the remainder of the year. We can reach out to you after the fact of the close of the sale for the units that would like to continue to do that. The cards, as you wonder right now, besides the ShopRite value, it's good through December 31st of 2020. So even if you couldn't use the Franklin Institute now, sometime hopefully before the end of the year, you could use the Franklin Institute or the Pretzel Factory or the Lego card. All right. So sales opportunities, we talked about it's friends and families and neighbors. It's a digital campaign this year. It has online pre-packaged online marketing tools, and it has safety tips online for promotions for the campaign. And I think that's important, not only is it here is it important, but anytime we're doing fundraising, we want to be using the safety guidelines of scouting, right? Youth should not be going to doors by themselves. There should be an adult somewhere along the way. Right? There should be 2 deep leadership if there's adults there, if it's outside the family. with the scouting activity, and scouts can work together while they fundraise. This is the contact resources for the adventure card. You can't miss it. You go to the COL BSA website, /adventure card. You'll find everything I said here this evening in great detail. All right, do we have any questions on the council pre-packaged fundraisers before I move on to some other fundraising activities? And I can see a lot of chat, but I don't know if they're to me.
So the question on the is about the Scout account. And then is a Scout account an information bookkeeping technique or a formal money allocation to a given Scout?
So Joe, do you want to try that Scout account? Because I've never been in a unit that ran a separate Scout account.
Okay. Yes. The Scout accounts are, it's just a bookkeeping technique. I used a spreadsheet for it. So set up a spreadsheet. This is how much goes into the account from the money earning or payments that they've made. And every time that they do something that costs money, this is how much is coming out of the Scout account. But it's, yeah, it's really just a bookkeeping issue. It's nothing more than that.
And then I see the last one was, what about the businesses that are shut down? The card cannot be used, or do you think the business will extend the dates for use? At this time, I don't know that answer. It's kind of like living in the world of day to day. But right now, there's still over 6 months of use left in those cards. And I think there would be an opportunity, hopefully within the next 6 months, and maybe I'm too optimistic, that the world would turn back to normal, that you could use the Franklin Institute at some point in time, right? And you could use the Lego component in the Philly pretzel. I really hope that this extension of staying at home is not lasting through the end of the year.
Hey, Jim, this is Greg Lyles. With that Scout card, they're good up until the end of the year.
Right. Through December 31st of 2020. Okay. We'll move back to the presentation if we don't have any other questions. And there'll be plenty of time to do questions at the end also too. All right, fundraising best practices. This is a little different than what I spoke about before, but these are some of the things that units that do fundraising the best all have in common, right? The duration of the activity for fundraising should not be more than 30 days, right? It could be one 30-day campaign. You heard about our unit. They sold Christmas trees for the month of December. They scheduled no other activities during that month, and they would sell Christmas trees, right, as a whole unit. And it took the whole unit to do it. You could have 2 campaigns, 15 days long. But during those 2 campaigns, you could have one in the spring and one in the fall. The focus of your unit during those campaigns, the sole focus should be fundraising, right? So that you're not fundraising all year long. You're not fundraising every single month, and you're not, because Scout families don't know that many people, right? Nor is this program, the 4-H, where we're trying to teach entrepreneurship, not is a sole source, or business is a sole source. We have a lot of other things to teach, like the Scout Oath and Law. And fundraising is a way to support that, all right? This active fundraising timeframe does not include pre-planning, right? So we talked about a tree sale or a resale or a pre-sale of flowers. You know, the pre-sale is where it is, but it's not the pre-planning of finding your tree farm or your nursery or the component of a restaurant that you would be working for your one night of sale, which we'll talk about as different ideas along the way. That pre-planning could be small groups of your unit assigned by your committee working for multiple months, a day or two a month, getting ready for that active fundraising. Just like any other part of scouting, it doesn't happen without planning and being prepared. But those are really good at it. They didn't start thinking about the camp cards for us in April. We had units that were calling their district commissioners and our council, wanting their cards immediately in March. They've already done pre-sales. by word of mouth long before they had the component of the cards coming in hand, right? They thought about that when they're going to do their fundraising. They've been working on it as a unit, maybe in the background, but during the period of time in which they're going to run the campaign, and whether it's 30 days during the whole card season, the whole unit is actively out there fundraising for 30 days, right? And if you're doing it for 30 days, you're going to find out that, and that's the only activity you're doing, you're going to find out you're going to be really successful, right? You're not just going out to sell popcorn one weekend out of the whole month. You're selling it hopefully Monday through Thursday through one of those other methods like your apps or your online sales, and you're going out for 3 Saturdays in a row or 3 Saturdays and a Sunday in a row to sell popcorn as a full unit, not as one family at a time. So those are the ideas that fundraising, when we talk about the best practices. We'll talk about return on investment. I think that's my next slide up. Yes. Pick the fundraiser with the best return on investment. So when you talk about that, you heard about the venture cards having a 60% return on the sale, right? So if you're trying to raise $9,000, and you're selling a can of peanuts for $3.50, and you're getting 25 cents out of every can of peanuts you sell back to your unit, not a really good return on investment, right? Because you're putting in the time, and sometimes you're even investing money. Because some of the things you're going to sell mean that you may have to lay some money out to get them there in time for your sale, if you're not doing a pre-packaged fundraiser. You should also know what is the demand for the product. Selling shaved ice in December on the tree lot is probably not going to be a very big seller. Not a great fundraiser, right? What is the cost of the product to the unit? Make sure if you're going to use something that has a return on investment and you have to lay out money, that there's a significant return on that. So if you're putting out $10, you should be getting back $3 at a minimum, 30%. And what is the market price, right? Because unlike the pre-packaged fundraisers where people recognize their brand and know that they are supporting Scouts when they're purchasing those items, and they're priced above market price, most other fundraisers, people are thinking, where can they get that for the same price, or is this reasonable to the price at which the market drives up or will bear? Possible non-council sponsored fundraisers, the ones that have no upfront costs. Because if you aren't fundraising today and you're starting to think about how do I get involved, and you chose not to do one of the pre-packaged ones from council, and that's fine, but that's the slam dunk style to get started. These are some of those ideas that units inside the Minkwest district use. A clothing drive. They get in touch with, and we can give you names of a few organizations that will take and pay you by the pound for the clothes that you donate to them or collect for them on their behalf, right? Our senior high school is doing that right now. So our senior class for the high school. There's no cost to that. You're just asking people, you have to have a place to store the materials for a short period of time, and you're asking people to make a donation to you. And you're getting paid for doing the legwork of doing the collection and the advertisement. Yard sales. Not individuals, but you could do a unit yard sale, right? All your materials that you're selling are donated that day. Know that you're not going to be so successful that you're going to sell everything that you have. So have a plan to get rid of all the items that are left at the end of the day. For yard sales, because there's no upfront cost, every dollar coming in is going 100% return on investment to your unit. Pre-order sales. I use plant sales here, seasonal. So when you hear about wreaths or poinsettias or tulips or vegetables for when they're in season, again, think about what is your demand. Don't be selling tomato plants in November or October because you got a really good price on them at the nursery in September, right? The season's over. But the pre-order plant sale is walking around with a pre-fixed menu door to door, and you've laid out no cash. You're receiving all your cash, or at least all your orders, and hopefully your cash with a check as you walk around, right? And then you're delivering plans later at no risk. The influencer sales, that's really what this year's adventure card is, right? So A restaurant might give your unit a percentage of sales of that evening for every patron that comes in that you've asked to come to that store on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night or through one weekend. And you'll get a percentage of all the sales generated from anyone who mentioned your unit's name or passed out a coupon, right? Those are your no upfront possible non-concert sponsored fundraisers that I came up with. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of the ones that are cash related. You know, I talked about trees, and I don't have a slide for this, but I'll give you some ideas because I don't think if you're not fundraising now, this is not where you want to jump in. This is not where you start. You start with one of these ones that have no risk or a pre-packaged for you. But you can go to the Wawa hoagie sales, right? They'll sell you a hoagie coupon, and I can't remember what it is, but it's a difference in value. I think they sell it for $3 and it's worth $4.59. So you can resell that for $4 and make $1 off of every coupon you sold, right? You could do trees, which is a risk, right? Where you pre-order all your trees ahead of time and you put your money out for your trees in September and hope you sell all your trees in December, right? But your cash is gone and it's not a small amount. If you can generate $27,000 off of trees, you have to lay out a significant amount of money to get your trees, right? Along the way. Same thing with items like wreaths, right? If you're not doing a pre-sale and you're trying to do a show and sell, you have to have the inventory with you, right? And people are going to judge your wreath against a wreath they could go down the street and grab. So think about what you can do to upsell your wreath. Can you get a ribbon placed on it? What can you do, right?
Were you
People say
supposed
that
to
they
be
can
on the
tank-
next
one
slide?
last thing on it. Yes, go ahead.
I didn't see any of what you were talking about in the slide that we were looking at with the no upfront.
Right, because I said, Suzanne, that if you aren't fundraising now, I didn't leave that up there in that goal because this is not where to start. But if you are already fundraising and you want to start to move to on risk, where you're putting money out, that's a good idea. And some of those are pancake breakfasts, spaghetti dinners, pumpkin sales. I don't want people to think that these are not viable fundraisers, right? But this evening, I'm figuring if you're coming to learn a little bit about fundraising, I want to make sure that the slides in the program deck talk to you about where you should start. And hopefully you can end up with one of those ones where you have a fundraiser you do within 30 days that funds your full program. It's going to take some time, but that's not where you start. Lastly, set realistic goals for yourself. If you're not fundraising now, the first couple of attempts may be rocky, but you'll raise money and you'll find ones that have those best return on investment, and you'll get to spend more time and pre-plan on them and make them successful. If you're fundraising, the last piece was, if you are fundraising now, set new goals, right? How can you be more efficient? How do you support the program for being the program as it is? And that if you're fundraising now and spending more than 30 days actively fundraising, reduce the amount of time that you're there. And then do I have any questions?
I have a question. When you're doing your Christmas tree sales, do you have someone man it continually? I mean, like throughout the week, do you just do it on weekends? Where do you do the actual sales? And is it like during the daytime? You know, some people are around and purchasing.
We sell every day. We sell every day of the week from the time we open to the time we sell out. We sell during the weekdays. That's Monday through Thursday from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And on the weekends, we sell at 8 a.m. on Saturday till 9 p.m. And on Sunday, we start at 9 o'clock to 9 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
And it takes the full unit which to let people understand the workload. My son figured it out when he was basically a junior in high school, is to sell one tree. And if a tree only weighs about 35 pounds, from the time it comes off the truck to the time it goes back on a car off the lot, that scout has picked that tree up a minimum of 9 times. Some scout has picked it up 9 times before it left that lot. So those are really big jumps. If that's not where you are now, that might be a goal for you 5 years from now, and that's why it's not in my slide deck. But you can think about items that will allow you to do that. Adventure cards will allow you to do that. Popcorn will allow you to do that.
Yeah, our troop we just started doing popcorn like this scouting year, but we also do Krispy Kreme donuts in November. Then we do Applebee's, the pancake breakfast, and then adventure cards.
Right. So
Krispy Kreme is a very big one for us.
Right. So if you found one that's worked really well for you, right, and you think you're matching that program and you're funding what you really were looking to fund already into your program for what percentage that is, right, that you would like to fund overall, look at the last slide. Let's be more efficient in our fundraising. And there's nothing wrong with doing 4 fundraisers as long as they weren't more than a week long each.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you one that I used to utilize for, if we needed additional fundraising was Five Below. They will give a unit 2 different weeks throughout the year where they will actually make up the flyers for you. They'll send you a digital copy of the flyer, then you reproduce it and pass it out to as many people as you can. Everybody that walks in with that flyer that week, whatever they buy, the unit will get 10% of the sales for the entire week. And if you're a savvy unit and you plan well ahead of time, you can get the week that includes Black Friday and also the week before the kids go back to school.
Great idea. Thank you.
That's that influencer sale that I was talking about.
Yes.
Jim, are council fundraising applications required for some of these sales?
Yes, they're required for all fundraising sales. So in Ireland, thank you for asking the question. When we fundraise as a whole, we want to make sure that we're checking with council to make sure that we're not going to a vendor or some other part that, one, we aren't consistent with our message, that we're fundraising with someone that doesn't represent Scouts as a partner. And 2, that it's not someone that from a council level area has not already asked them for another opportunity to support Scouting significantly. Missing any other questions?
And at this point, we're open for any questions for any part of the presentation, so fire away. Wow, we couldn't have been that good. Don't forget you're all muted, so if you do have a question, hold down your space bar before you ask it.
Hi, this is David. I'm a Scoutmaster 545 in Hawk Mountain Council, but I'm originally from Valley Forge Council, so I get a bunch of Creative Liberty emails. So I figured I wanted to jump on this as to increase my standing in the trooper fundraising. That's the biggest thing that I'm interested in. Like besides wreaths and Christmas trees, I'm from the Boyertown area, and I know Creative Liberty is based. It stops on 100, so we're on the other side of 100. Is there any kind of ideas for a troop that doesn't do a lot of fundraising? Our biggest fundraiser, and well, we do the popcorn, but that's not really that doesn't really do it for us. And then of course we do 2 friendlies fundraisers at least this year. But we don't bring a lot of funds in. So I'm trying to look for different ideas for something that's more progressive or a little bit that's going to help us out, because our other thing is that we don't have a lot of scout interaction. I have a troop of 21 boys, and it's usually the same boys over and over again. I'm just looking for different ideas instead of just popcorn and friendlies and stuff like that. I'm looking for something different. Do you have any recommendations for different types of fundraisers?
Actually, specific to your area, the Reading Phillies have a pretty interesting fundraiser. It might be a little late to get in on it right now, but you buy, well, you can't get in on it right now, but you buy packs of tickets, or you sell packs of tickets to people, and you don't have to pay for them up front. You can just have them pay, and the Phillies will ship the tickets directly to the people. And they will receive 6 tickets that are good for any game that they want to go to in the season. and it's $27. The retail is $27. The unit keeps 10 of that. So, and it's a pretty easy sale, especially up in your area. You're not far from the Reading Phillies. And that's one that you can do for 2 weeks and knock out a lot of sales, and you get the money back pretty much immediately. But I'll harken back to something I said earlier. Depending on how you're distributing or allocating the money from the sales, that's what's going to dictate how motivated the families are to actually participate in the sales, more than the sale itself. What's in it for me? Do I have any skin in the game? If I'm somebody that really doesn't care about paying for everything for my child, maybe I'm not going to push my kids to participate. But if I am somebody, especially if I have more than one child in scouting, I'm motivated to have them go out and sell. I don't care what you're selling. My kid's going to sell it because I need them to in order to participate. From a personal perspective, when my son joined Scouts as a Tiger, I told him, listen, you can do anything you want in scouting, but I'm not paying for it. You have to pay for it yourself. And he had to do that primarily through popcorn. And when the funny thing was, when he moved on from Cubs to Boy Scouts, the troop that he joined did not sell anything. They did one fundraiser a year where they sold hot dogs, and that all went to troop equipment, but they didn't do any fundraising for the Scouts themselves. And my son didn't know what to do. He says, I have to sell stuff. Otherwise, how am I going to pay for scouting? And they said, well, sorry, we don't do that. So he actually approached council and asked, could he be his own unit? And they said, well, give us a sales plan, which he did. And they approved it. And every year since he passed on from Cub Scouts, he was selling in the thousands of dollars of popcorn, because he sat down and said, okay, how much do I need to earn to pay for my year, including now summer camp. As a matter of fact, he went to multiple weeks of summer camp by doing it through popcorn and adventure card sales. And he's been to the World Jamboree, he's been to the National Jamboree, he's been to high adventure bases and all that he paid for through that fundraising.
Thank you. I mean, that's kind of what I was looking for. I'm just looking for different ideas to bring. I like the troop does have a scout account for all our scouts, but I'm just looking for something that's going to entice them a little more. I like the Reading Phillies. I think I've looked into that before. I don't have a lot of parents joining or helping out with things. I have a core group of about 7 leaders. Or 7 adults basically, and that's pretty much what I have. I don't have other parents jumping in anything, and I have a little bit of interaction, participation. So I'm just looking for something that's going to entice them. Say, hey, I've mentioned about them that if they sell things for fundraisers, it does help out for summer camp, as you mentioned before. So thank you. I mean, it did help out. I just need ideas basically that fit in this area that I don't have to go all over the place.
Is there anybody online that can help David out with some suggestion?
Applebee's pancake breakfast. A lot of troops do their own like spaghetti dinners. They'll have the troops cook the spaghetti and then sell tickets and have people come in. Sometimes I've heard of troops that do they do their own pancake breakfast. Instead of doing it at Applebee's where you only get sausage and pancakes, they'll do it wherever their troop location is, and do a pancake breakfast there. Some just do a regular old Sunday dinner, and sell tickets for that. Like I said, for our troop, Krispy Kreme is a big thing, but you also have to have a Krispy Kreme that's nearby, because you can either sell the actual boxes of Krispy Kremes or give people a voucher so that they can go and get them themselves. Matter of fact, I have one in my wallet I need to use. You can also, one of the influencer things is there are some places like pizza places. I think Chipotle also is one of the influencer restaurants. I'm not sure. Well, they said you're near Reading, and there's a pizza place somewhere like near Jenkintown that gives like 33% of the sales, you know, with the same type of coupon. There's a lot of different things out there, and you might be able to just Google some ideas.
One of the ones I would say is, and I mentioned like the seasonal plant sales. There was a unit down in our area that I miss dearly, that they used to do a plant sale fundraiser for your garden for the spring, right? But they went out, and we talk about planning, they took their art orders in March. So the greenhouse that they were working with knew they were selling a fixed amount of orders straight off the bat, right? And so I couldn't buy the same items I was buying from that Scout unit at any greenhouse or any big box store for the price they were selling them to us for. So what I'm talking about is like if you're starting a vegetable garden in your yard, right? And I had children of that age at that point where I had gardens everywhere. I had every type of tomato known to man in my yard. I couldn't wait for them to come. Now that unit probably didn't like they liked the volume I bought, but the Scouts that had to deliver them to my house and bring them, I have a very long driveway, was bringing flat after flat after flat, the materials up. But the planning part is what made it successful for them, right? That they were able to sell and take their orders in March, and they were delivering them to you when it was time to put them in the ground, which for us it was June. So I could get peppers and tomatoes and flowers and those type of items. But you have to find a greenhouse that's willing to work with you. But they usually, you know, everything they're growing is at risk.
And for David, actually, a greenhouse that is out your way that does that is Dan Shant's greenhouse.
I know of a couple Cub Scout packs who do the Super Bowl hoagie fundraiser where they take orders during the year, and I guess the night before the Super Bowl they all get together overnight and start making all the hoagies and then deliver them Super Bowl day. It's an idea. Although some people might not want people making hoagies for them now, but you know, hopefully that changes by then.
That could even turn into a good overnighter for the pack or the troop.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite fundraisers is car wash. You sell tickets ahead of time. You have it be a set price, like say $8 or $12 a car. People are going to give you a tip, $10, tell you to keep the $2, give you $15, tell you to keep $3. And you're not, it's not like popcorn or some of these other things where you're trying to fight to get a 40% commission. You're getting whatever you're car washing for, you're keeping all of that money. The kids get to wear Class Bs. You get to bring some old towels, some buckets, and everyone gets a little bit wet. That's all part of the fun of it too. And I don't know, it always seems to be a good event.
Thank you. I agree.
I would ask your chartered organization as well. Sometimes they have events that you guys can attend and help out with. Maybe have a bake sale or sell cards or sell something at an event that's already taking place. It makes it easy for you. And your chartered organization can support you in that way.
I see a couple of questions popping up in the chat about raffles. Anything that involves games of chance is not allowable, which is one of the reasons that you need to fill out the fundraising application before you engage in a fundraiser. Because you need it to be approved to ensure that it adheres to BSA fiscal guidelines. And I did see somebody ask something about uniforms. Greg, you can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn. Technically, Class A's are only allowable for council-sponsored fundraisers. But if you're engaging in a fundraiser where you have gone through the application and gotten it approved, nobody is going to send the uniform police out to see if your Scouts are wearing uniforms while they're engaged in this fundraiser. And I think that if you're doing it for Scouts, it makes sense to have them dressed as Scouts so people know what they're supporting.
Can I ask one question of everyone, and not everyone has to answer it all, but was this helpful this evening?
Yes.
Bunch of up and downs. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're actually, considering we started 5 minutes late, we are exactly at our hour and a half. If anybody has any further questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And I hope that you do take away some information from this. We will post this presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, and the forms and the templates that we use between now and next Wednesday. So you'll be able to get them from our website, colbsa.org. And I want to thank Jim and Bob for their expertise and their help tonight as well. And again, thank you, everyone, and I hope you all have a really great evening.
Thank you so much.